Text Chanel. Okay. You didn't, did you?
You work hard today?
I actually ended up going in today with the baby on my back.
Perfect.
Discovered he's a little bit big.
Oh, really?
Big at
for a
3.5, 38 pounds.
A little too big for a hitchhiker.
But I was only there for like hour and a half or something.
That could be tough.
Yeah. After all this, all those permutations, you got the right one.
Yeah. Okay.
This like beginning is supposed to still say Dave Creighton.
Mm-hmm.
It is, this lasts until after this meeting.
It should actually say Millie. on
Millie's
this.
term
Oh,
started on
okay.
Monday.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if there was a certain.
It's a typo.
Yeah, she's official. She's sworn in.
Okay.
She's bona
That's what I
fide.
was wondering.
Mm-hmm.
It's a typo. Well, we know Millie's not Dave.
How do you know?
Different
She's got a mask on.
Yeah, she's
I
incognito.
can't tell.
The Dave won't wear his glasses, so we know. You Chanel call him in and be
She had a She had a pen.
Oops, I had the wrong number.
6338.
Waiting for your bank.
Don't want to talk to the bank.
Welcome to the GCI. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the star key now. Please enter your chairperson password. You are the chairperson. You are the first participant to join the conference. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference.
We heard anything from Chanel?
I haven't yet. I just texted her a few minutes ago.
Okay.
See if she's going to make it. And I haven't had a response yet.
Give her a minute.
It's Parker Stanley. Is that you, Cody?
Yeah, that's me.
This is John. Just stand by. We haven't called the meeting to order yet. Schwegel. Schwegel. SCHWAGEL, I think.
I think it's SCHWEG. Yeah.
Oh, EG.
Okay.
There goes my spelling bee title.
We changed this a little bit to kind of help her. And so,
Change it however you want.
yeah. Added some more room so I could. Instead of doing those, we can just use this.
Let's see if you can avoid writing down the time.
That's what this is for. I already told it what day it was. too.
Okay.
So, And put on battery.
I don't know if USDA
The meeting's normally, the first and, second in December.
Oh.
I'll go look, Julie.
First and third, sorry, first and third in December.
Usually, but commonly we reschedule the second meeting because it
That's
typically
what I was
conflicts with the school concert, but I don't even know if there's gonna be a school concert this
Okay,
year.
well, I'm gonna be gone December 3rd,
Oh,
so
okay.
if that happens, I'm,
third,
yeah.
long ago in and out. My sweatshirts. It's on the door.
Okay.
You close the door, you can see the calendars out there.
We'll call this meeting to order then. Do roll call, please.
Mayor Tim O'Connor,
Here.
Millie Schoonover,
Here.
Hannah Bezamat,
Here.
Jim C.,
Here.
Julie McDonald,
Here.
Michael Campnich,
Here.
and Chanel McKinley.
Yet to arrive.
Okay.
I caught that one. It was almost Stevens. I heard her. Okay, moving on to consent agenda.
Move to accept consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made to accept the consent agenda. All in favor of accepting consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on, hearing from the public.
Try to remain on my best no spittle behavior here. I am Kenny Scaffoldstead. I'm from Guna. I'm the former mayor of Guna. I'm your Republican candidate for the state house position in this coming election, November 3rd. I've had the pleasure of visiting your fair city and some of the outliers. Mostly I'm here because it's one of the few opportunities I'll get to get 10 Prince of Walers under one ceiling and to be able to have their voice. I want to be able to look you in the eye and you to see my face. I've, as I said, been a mayor, council member before that, public works director before that, civic activist and general rabble rouser, lifetime working and commercial fisherman. Grew up in Southeast Alaska. My parents named me Kenneth Carl and my elders nicknamed me Kenny Carl. And I'm known by that, minus the last name, in a lot of places in Southeast. You'll see that on some of my signs up and some of my literature. Anyway, I'm here to greet you, introduce myself. I will leave some cards and information here. I'm an open phone, open book guy. I love to discuss whatever topics you may have. I answer all calls and all texts if it takes me all night. And emails as well, things that you want to know about me and position and things. Mostly, I am running for office because voices asked me to that felt like their voice was not being heard in our capital city. And as much as I'm denying being a fool for punishment, I could not take turning those people down that thought I'd be a guy that could get some things done. Extremely challenging undertaking. I'm a troubleshooter. I'm not afraid of it. It indeed is a mess, and I don't think we can get out of that mess with the same mindset took us into it. And I'm running for office, and I'll be around for a couple more days. And please call me and text me, write me, get a hold of me. I'm acquainted with city administrator from my mayorship, and we'll be chatting, and I can be reached and I can travel I'm very familiar with your challenges. This agenda looks very familiar. I commend your service and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Nobody was on the phone. Do you have a comment?
Cody have something to say?
I asked Cody to dial in case there was some conversation about the first reading of ordinance 730.
Oh, okay.
That was on the consent agenda, all right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions, if anybody has any questions about the proposal to purchase that property, so.
Thank you for calling in, Cody.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
Chanel indicates that she's on her way.
Okay. Thank you, John. Okay. We'll move on to reading and correspondence.
Okay.
Anything on that, Joe?
No.
I have to say, the update on the travel makes absolutely no sense to me, personally. I posted something on Facebook about it, but I mean, if you don't test, quarantine for 14 days, seems a little long to me. From the research I've done, which, you know, I'm just a pharmacist, but it seems like 5 to 7 is the average, so 10 seems reasonable, 14 seems a little long. So it seems like they're being overly conservative, but then they turn around, which that's fine, they want to be overly conservative, that's fine. But then they turn around and say, if you only travel for 72 hours, you don't need to quarantine or test. Which, I mean, I don't know how you go from 14 days, which is like on the long conservative side, to 72 hours, you don't need to do anything. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but there's nothing we can do about it. Just my 2 cents.
Any other comments on that? Let the record show Chanel showed up. Thank you, Chanel.
Did the Tuesday thing throw you off?
No, I got baby poop in my hair.
Oh, well, you know, we appreciate you showing.
Thanks for sharing.
Say it pays off one day.
I don't know that.
If I had a dime for every time I hit the baby poop.
Glad it's only your hair. Okay. Any more discussion of those issues under reading correspondence? If not, we're gonna move on to consideration of resolution and ordinances. Resolution 20-15 fisheries declaration disaster.
Move to approve resolution 20-15. Second.
Motion's been made to approve resolution 20-15. Anybody got any discussion on that? Did have something on there, but I just lost it. Can you change your wording on that at all, John?
Of course.
Where you've listed the charter fishing fleet and that, I'd like to include the trolling fleet as well as the seine fleet. And numerous dive fisheries. Try to include them all.
You're looking at one of the particular whereas clauses.
Whereas Craig has sufficient charter fishing fleet and other tourism-related businesses. If we could put, right after significant, just put in troll fleet, seine fleet, and dive fleet, plus a charter fishing fleet. No, doesn't explain it quite the way I feel it should be. I don't know if they will.
It's easy enough to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
If there's an amendment to make the change.
okay. They feel that we need to move or add that amendment to
It'll make you happy.
it. You would. I'd be smiling.
Okay, I move to amend, which whereas is it?
The third, I
The
think.
third whereas to include the seining. Now I lost it. Seining, trolling, and diving fleets.
We should add long line gill net.
Yeah, oh, that's right, we got you.
And long line and gillnet. Anybody else?
It's a friendly amendment, but we just have to accept it. We don't need to vote on that, do we, Jim?
Well,
Vote to accept the resolution with the amendment.
Sure, if you're comfortable doing that.
I would move to do that. As the original person, so.
What was after long line?
Gilnet. Gilnet.
Gil what?
Netting.
Okay. Got it.
Motion's been made to accept the friendly amendment to John's resolution 2015, which was to act one other than that. So, if everybody's good with that one. All in favor of that?
It's a roll call vote, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry. What was that, Joe?
It's a roll call vote, I
Oh,
think.
is it? Oh, wow. It's so long since I had on him. I
So,
forgot.
I just call it out.
Mhm.
Okay.
If the mayor's ready, yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. So, let's see.
Exactly, just call from here.
Okay. So Hannah Bassinet,
Yes.
Nellie Schoonover,
Yes.
Mike Campnett,
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yes.
Motion's been approved with the slight amendment. Moving on to unfinished business. Consider the Air Medevac sponsorship.
Mr. Mayor, the council asked me to follow up with the responder Guardian Flight regarding suspending existing paid memberships if the city were to acquire memberships for city residents. And you can see the email I got in return on Thursday, October 15th, where the company agreed to do exactly that, suspend existing memberships. We'll have to go through a bit of a process to make sure I get word back to them. And then, of course, if the council approves this, we'll have some kind of a public notification process as well. We'll work with Brian and Misty on it to let the public know if the council approves the benefit. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Quick question again. So we determined there were 470 households.
Approximately, yes.
That's what the board said.
Yep.
Perfect.
I would move to approve award of the community medevac membership proposal from Guardian Flight Alaska in the amount of $47,000.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the
Can I just-
Guardian Flight.
oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So I had just had one point, not for more comment than discussion or discussion, is I just think it really good public education should go with it. Because it sounds like from the email when I read it, they're putting the burden on the household to know that they still have time left. So we need to really educate when people get enrolled in this, that they need to contact them to suspend their current membership so they don't just lose that time.
Agreed, right. Yeah, it'd be important And we're gonna have to notify the public anyway, so they're aware of the benefit. At the same time, we can
Let them
include
know.
the notification that they should contact Guardian directly and
Like do a flyer, mail in or mail out flyer.
we'll figure something out, yes.
Yeah. Misty has been regularly sending out postcards and benefits have been rolling out. So I think that one's for this particular benefit and then information on the website, flyer answers and frequent questions kind of thing on the website somewhere.
Yeah,
More information, you know.
And in fact, I mean, I'd be willing to spend some time with Guardian saying, just send me a list, if they'll share it with me, of your members of Craig addresses, and I can respond, okay, and say this, many of them live in Craig and they're eligible to have their membership suspended, so we can get that figured out.
Yeah.
And Misty's communication has been very, very clear and very direct, without being overly wordy. She gets the point across. So I think it will be fine. But I think the email solution that they gave was perfect. It doesn't put a lot of burden of administrative work on the city. It accomplishes the goal we want with the city one starting now, and they can still get to hold on to their memberships. We just got to make sure people are aware.
Okay. So, are we calling for the question
Yeah,
now?
I'm calling for the question.
Oh, cool. All right. Is this another roll call vote?
Motion is just a voice vote, Mr. Mayor.
Just a motion. A motion's been made to accept consider the Air Medevac sponsorship for Guardian. That's it. Don't need to vote on
No, yeah, just
it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Moving on. New business, Port St. Nicholas Road Maintenance Report.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there is a copy of the, well, I actually emailed out a copy of the maintenance report to the council some time ago when it was made public and provided to the public as well. Our municipal code calls for a 30-day public notice period. The maintenance report is required by our ordinance to detail the amount of money spent and the services rendered to maintain the Port St. Nicholas Road between the city limits and roughly the water plant. Russell kept close track of his staff hours and machine time, as well as material costs. Those are detailed in the report. The 30-day comment period started about 30 days ago. It concludes tonight at this meeting. I did receive just one written comment from the public, and I think I forwarded that to the council, as well as, yes, I forwarded that to the council. So I haven't responded to the questions posed in that email yet, but I will, subject to the council action tonight. As you can see, the amount of money spent on materials and labor and equipment time is well below the $150 cap per lot. So if the council approves this, staff will finalize the process we need to do to build the billing database for this service and then get the billing out.
I don't see where you need to answer the letter. Unless you want to tell them, well, it's, everybody in the city pays the same sales tax that you're referring to, blah, 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 and plus we pay other taxes, plus we use the general fund to pay for the excess water cost. We've already talked with them before on this whole thing multiple times. I don't even know that you need to respond, but you can respond if you choose to.
Okay.
Hey, do we need to get a motion on this or?
Oh, yeah, if the council could approve by motion the annual maintenance report.
Move to approve the Port St. Nicholas annual road maintenance report.
Motion has been made to accept the Port St. Nicholas Road Maintenance Report. Any more discussion on this?
Just question though, just to clarify, by approving this, then that confirms that
the building fee should be sent out.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, essentially, by approving this, you're also setting the billing fee amount.
Very good. Thank you.
Do you feel that this fee should be reduced due to our reduced maintenance cost from the 150 minimum
Well,
The 150 is a maximum
or
Yeah.
maximum?
under our
it's
code.
only 86, 88, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
And where did I see, there was somewhere you'd commented in here about the, oh, I can't think of the name of it, the shooting club.
Yes,
They just sent that in unprovoked.
the donation.
several months ago.
They're outside the building area.
I know they're outside the building area, and anyways, that was commendable of them to do that.
I agree.
I don't remember where I read it, but I did read it somewhere.
Okay. So, is there a motion for this? Yeah. Okay,
There it is, thank you.
roll call vote, or we do
You can call for a voice vote, Mr. Mayor.
it? Yeah, let's do a voice vote.
Hannah Bethany,
Yes.
Ellie Schoonover.
Yes.
Mike Cavendish,
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yeah,
Approved, thank you. Okay, we're going to discuss the cannery update. Cannery Harbor project.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I did put a memo in the packet on this. I think it's definitely timely for a discussion on what steps to take next with regard to financing the downtown harbor project, given the rejection by the voters of the ballot measure that would have provided for debt service or for general obligation debt to finance our share of the cost of the breakwaters, which was $4.4 million. I attached a copy of a memo I wrote about a year ago with laying out a bunch of different funding options. As a reminder to the council, part of the process it had gone through to get us to the point where the measure was on the ballot to begin with. There, the October 14th, the new memo has some background information, a couple of options for the council to think about on what it wants to do next. I guess we're considering those options, which steps it favors, which steps it doesn't. So we're prepared to move compliance with the council's direction. That's especially timely because the colonel from the Army Corps and his deputy are going to be here next week, in part to look at the project, the downtown project. And I'm sure they'll want to have a discussion about the timing of the project and what the Corps is on their end, and that sort of thing. And I've described a little bit about what the Corps expects to have done by this March in terms of the design. The funding is still up in the air on their end as well. So just looking for some direction from the council and ready to take input.
The next funding idea that we approved, John, it has to go on the ballot as well.
It depends on what that route is. If it's issuance of general fund debt, then yes, constitutionally and statutorily, city's required to go before the voters. If the council were to choose a different funding option, one that dedicates revenues, for example, typically call it revenue bond, that does not require a public vote, or putting up cash to meet the match is within the discretion of the council. It doesn't require a public vote either. So there just depends what option the council chooses.
I mean, did anyone hear any issues on why that anybody was opposed to it?
I was kind of shocked at how many people didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah,
Still,
the people I spoke to, which was, this is just mine, so I'm actually really curious to hear what other people have heard. But pretty much everybody that I talked to that voted no did not understand. They thought it, yeah, some of the, after I talked to them for maybe 3 minutes, they were like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those are just the, I mean, I probably talked to 12 people, so I don't know if that's representative. I mean, the fact that so many people said no gave me pause. It was like, whoa, maybe we're headed a direction, maybe we're off key. But like I said, and then there were like 3 people that voted yes, but just because I had been in communication with them, they understood it. So I don't know if it was a communication thing. So I'm interested to see what you all have heard.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, I talked with numerous people, mainly because I was running as write-in. And to me, and I was involved in it in the earlier years, but I haven't been involved for 9 years, so I haven't kept up with what you all have been talking about. But the biggest concern from every single person I talked to, and I talked to, I want to say at least 25 people. The number one issue was, why does the city want to spend that kind of money when they're not upkeeping what we have? And I really couldn't answer. My only response was that the earlier years I was here when this first came up, and it had been one of our top priorities. And I told them why. Because we had a super long list of people waiting for mortgage. We may have 3 or 4 docs, but there's no mortgage. So that made sense to me that, you know, we not only have our local people, but we have the seasonal people, and a lot of those folks like to leave their votes here. And so I really couldn't answer that, but that was the number one issue that I was hearing out in the street, was people were very upset because they just felt like what we have now is totally neglected. And I haven't been down to the docks, so I don't know what shape the docks are in. Maybe because I don't have time to go down to the docks. But that was the number one thing that I was hearing, the number one complaint.
Well, to update you, we just did and completed a harbor study on what needed to be fixed and maintained. And I believe that some of that stuff slipped behind because of the change in harbor master there, where we went through, you know, 3 or 4 harbor masters in rapid succession. So we didn't have a good maintenance program continuing that was followed up on, and so on and so forth. But this harbor evaluation that we just paid to have done, and now the new harbor master has a list of projects to take care of and address that maintenance issue that is fell behind. And that issue, I think, will be addressed now. It's already started on the list, right, John?
Well, the list was just finalized in the final version of the report. I don't know that he started on any specific project. Well, actually,
He's looked at it.
he's done some legwork on some already, yes.
Yeah.
But the document is just now finalized.
Yeah, we're just now getting all that stuff finalized, and he's getting the list and the idea of what he needs to start doing to fix things. And the biggest problem I've seen talking to 10 to 20 people like you guys have is that the misunderstandings that people didn't realize what was going on, and that they just didn't understand where that money was coming from. They thought they were going to be taxed.
Yeah, that's what they said. And your point is very valid. And
Yeah.
I did hear 1 or 2 that said that
Those
as
are
well.
the 2 main issues.
Most people
Misunderstanding.
thought it was a tax. They were voting to get a
And
higher
people think
tax.
they're doing a tax because of the way it was worded. And John and I worked on that twice or 3 times and changed that wording, but still it was not fully understood. So, you know, I feel that a concept drawing and a better explanation run by the public, this would probably pass. If you give them a good concept drawing of what we intend to do, as well as a really good explanation.
Yes, but on the other hand, when the city does send out information, you know, when you do the newsletter, I bet 90% of those are sitting in the trash.
Yes, they are.
So people, you know, they're given the opportunity
They were given the
to
opportunity here.
read. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
when material was sent out, or if material was sent out explaining it.
It
But
was,
it just breaks my heart, you know, when people complain about city stuff and it's in the newsletter, they could go to the website, you know, it's not, or they could call up here.
or it's posted at the post office.
Honestly, everybody gets information off Facebook nowadays.
Yeah, and we were posting stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
This here didn't get posted on there, but we sent out a newsletter, we posted it on the city website. And we tried to discuss it with people, and like I said, we rewrote the definition of what was gonna happen 3 different times. And it still didn't get across to people, because like you said, most of that explanation is up in the garbage. They don't read it.
Right. They need to understand that we still have 50 or 60 large boats that want to come here. Every one of those large boats that uses this place as a base is an major economic impact on this. And not very, the people I talk to, a lot of them mentioned the harbor condition, but I told them we'd already were taking care of that, and that I knew I wouldn't vote for the new harbor until we knew we were gonna get the other one fixed. I mean, but we do need, just with the number of people we have on the list for big boats, the economic impact of that is pretty good, so I don't know if we wanna go through another vote thing, or, I mean, this council has done a great job for many years before I even got on here, for sure, about making that permanent fund. And then we just added $2.5 million to it that, what we didn't, the other half is still sitting there. So technically, that money doesn't have to stay in there. It's not under the same auspices as the original stuff, right? Because we added it to it.
Well, once it goes in, the principal is governed by the municipal code, which does require a supermajority of council members to take out the principal. So it's all subject to the same rules in our municipal code in terms of appropriation from it.
And I talked to a previous council member, Mike DeVille, and Mike says, we need to do this anyway. Nobody understood what you guys were doing. They misunderstood it. And he says, that money that's in those accounts that we're discussing is for development.
It's economic development.
It's economic development money. And he says that money has been there and been preserved and saved for 30 years. And that's what it's for. And this isn't that economic development opportunity. If we miss this opportunity, we're going to be in bad shape. This money is not going to be available 10 years from now or 5 years from now. If it is, it's going to take you 20 years to get it.
That's the other thing I think people miss too, is this is not something that we
They
could
do
just,
not.
next year we can decide to do, or, and you know, I think a lot of people are worried about COVID and finances and, oh, we'll just do this next year.
Right,
Well-
I did have a couple of comments from people that this is a scary time to do it because of
Exactly.
COVID. It's like, it's gonna be over within a year or so.
What if we wait till next year?
Right, no,
It's like the brass ring on a merry-go-round. If you don't grab it when you go by, it's gone. And this
Yeah.
is what we're looking at. And so we need to, figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to explain our actions.
And I was a little hesitant in the public documents to say that the money wouldn't be available after this year because it's the big portion of it, 17.5 million is subject to appropriation by Congress. And we don't know for sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to say absolutely the money's going to come this year because I just don't know. I think it will. Of course, saying it's likely, the signs look good, but I just took the cautious approach in the description to not to overstate.
And that's good, but I think that people misunderstood that cautious approach to saying that, whatever, they didn't understand it, or they threw it in the trash and didn't read it. So we need to figure out how we're gonna move forward on this. If we wanna go to another vote to the public, or if we just wanna move forward and fund what we have to fund and do what we have to do.
Well, the council is not without options.
So
I mean, it could dip into the endowment fund for at least the first 2.2 million, which is reimbursable through the bond market. So the council could replenish that 2.2 million. If it draws that out from the principal, it could replenish it once the bonds are sold, which would give us the same amount of debt, but also replenish the endowment fund as well. It could pay some by cash, some by financing. Could have a special election if it wants to public to consider the bonds again, or it could wait until next fall. Do interfinancing through a bank. There's all kinds of possibilities.
I think that all the council, if I'm wrong, guys yell at me, but feel that we need to move forward on this and fund it. And it's just figuring out the proper way to do it, because I don't want to insult the voters by just saying, no, we're going to go ahead and do it. We want to do it, not what you said.
That's my big concern is the perception. But
I
you
don't
you
want
all
them-
overwhelmingly voted against it, but we just kind of
Yeah, exactly.
didn't listen to
And I
that.
do not want to do something like that, but
No.
at the same time, I know we have an opportunity here that could be missed if we don't move somehow. So we need to come up with some idea to do this in an acceptable fashion. So we've got a good idea, Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
I can put it on the agenda for a couple more times and see what kind of actual, how many people show up to deal with it. But I would, with the guys that are coming on the 27th, I would tell them, don't back off because we lost this vote.
That was my next question, is if it's the intention of the council for me to represent that it's still a priority project for us.
Yeah, I would say so. Wouldn't you agree, council? Anybody that's against that option? No. Yeah, and just make them aware that the vote failed, that we have other options.
The economic implications for the city. And then it's a huge chunk of debt, but I mean, if they're willing to spend $2 million on a pool that costs you $500,000 a year, just outright loss, I don't understand exactly what's going on.
I feel that a concept drawing done by R&M or somebody like that would go a long way to explain what we're doing here and to show it. If we show a boardwalk down there and interpretive set trail that shows, where the canoes landed there 300 years ago and where the cannery was built and now the fishing fleet's here, and then we have charter fleet and fishing fleet now here that need a dock and harbor. And that we're working on maintaining this one. Once we can show that, I don't think anybody's gonna really give us too hard of a time once they understand it. It's just making them understand it or reading the information that we put out there. So,
I know more people read the Island Post than they do the newsletters, and I don't know if it would be best
I know,
to go ahead and put that in the Island Post.
I had the same thought, Melanie.
So you prefer the writer of the Island Post to me, I guess?
No. but you can.
I'm kidding, I'm
We
kidding.
do, but somebody from the city can write it and submit it as an article. I mean, because I've had my pharmacy students write articles and submit it, and it's been published in the Island Post. So.
I know a guy that can write it real well, that guy named Kevin McDonald.
Oh, you're talking about his Facebook. He's not responsible. For the record, I'm not responsible for my husband's Facebook post.
But no, that's a good idea, maybe, or maybe you're right. That's where most people get what's going on. It's either that or Facebook, and they're not gonna read a whole article like that in Facebook.
I think you should,
But they would
I think you should do this
see,
as
look
an
at the
editorial.
They would, and that's what we need to come up with, this concept. Me and John discussed this the other day. Because who else was with there on the Mariculture wanted to do a concept drawing for what they plan on doing here in Marcus here soon. And it gave us the idea to think, well, maybe we need to do one for this new art, do a concept drawing so people can look at it and see what we have in mind.
Showing the historical.
Because even though we can all read, we all look at pictures better.
is a big thing too.
Well, and
Everybody
explaining
thinks
this,
it's just gonna be like completely.
and I can't word it, but the thing with the core, explaining how the proportion they're funding and that this was, this is not an opportunity that comes along very often, but somebody that can word that a lot more eloquently than I can. Because that's honestly a big selling point for me.
I know that. Anyway,
You gotta get them off the construction
Mike?
side.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, if we talked there, concerned people was the price they got. And maybe it wasn't as straightforward on how it would get paid as it might otherwise have been, but because we do have some amount of funds that are liquid we could use to pay for part of it, I would, just thinking maybe we pay part of it to lower the overhead of the bond. And then doing a bond with a little better explanation, and it won't look quite as drastic.
do that second part next fall, maybe toward, give more time to think about it, and that's time to prepare a concept drawing and an article in the Island Post. And have to do a presentation on Facebook, so.
We want a video.
Well, how do we have to commit to the whole amount, one way or the other, for the proceed?
Well, yes, we have to commit to our match, which is 20% of the estimated construction cost. An estimated construction cost is 22 million. Having said that, though, the Corps is willing to finance half of our match requirement, 2.2 million, over 30 years at some interest rate that hasn't been established yet. Which means that we'd have to come up with 2.2 million in the near term, and then could pay the Corps back for the other half of our match over, as I said, over 30 years. So if you're looking at cash flow needs, we're going to need it 2.2 million by the time the construction is finished. And guessing, and maybe Brian can, if I'm leaving any gaps here, he can correct me, that the Corps will require us to sign an agreement to provide the funding along some kind of a set timeline. And I don't know exactly what the terms of that agreement will look like at this point. But it would maybe require us to come up with 20% of whatever they're paying a contractor when the contractor is building the breakwater. So if the first contractor billing is $500,000, you have to come up with 20% at that point. And the next billing is 1.5 million, you have to come up with 20% of that. Brian, is that your recollection?
Actually, I think we would only have to come up with 10%. We would have to track the Corps' cash output at
10%. Yeah, that's right.
So if the Corps went out and made a contract for $500,000 for someone to do work, we would have to have 10% of that contract amount, and the Corps would have the other 90%. And that would track all the way through the Corps' budget of about $20 million, which would mean by the time we finish construction, we will have doled out $2 million or whatever 10% of the cost.
Right, yeah. Excuse me, it is 10% if they're going to finance half over time.
And I think a cost share agreement is similar to that in the design process. And so the Corps will not move forward with the next part of the construction project until they have the city's match funding in place. So we'll have to be tracking right along with that 10%.
The other question I would have is if the Corps was, if we chose to work with the Corps on financing part of it through them, how would that compare cost-wise to a bond, which is more advantageous to us?
I can't answer the question, Michael, because the Corps hasn't told us what the rate would be. I'm not sure when they will be able to tell us. Right now, the bond market for general obligation debt is sometimes it's below 3%. Is when I checked last with the bond bank. I'm guessing that the federal government rate will be higher than that, but that's just a guess.
So when the feasibility study was completed, there was a cost estimate done, and the Corps of Engineers used a figure either 3% or 7%, depending on whether the Corps' rate or OMB's rate prevailed, as the amount that they were using to calculate what it would cost us for that money over time. But as John said, that was 5 years ago. And the Corps is not in the position to tell us what the rate would be today.
Or even to try to approximate it. The bond bank can do a pretty good job of approximating what the rate would be if we use regular GO bonds. So I think I have the input I need from you to meet with the Army Corps staff next week.
I think it'd be good to have an article in the Island Post, maybe one that says something like common misconceptions or common myths regarding the harbor. Myth 1, it will increase your taxes. Blah, blah, blah. Myth 2, the current harbor will be further neglected. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Myth 3, we can do this project next year, something to that effect. That's just my thought.
Good idea.
Yeah, good idea, especially we had the concept right.
And then put the concept drawing.
A lot of people are really worried about that, though,
Yeah.
how it's gonna look and how everything's gonna be laid out.
And I noted that in my memo that doing a concept drawing will raise other concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would not be a match item by the Corps at this point. The Corps won't share in any expenses related to local support facilities, including preliminary components.
That means you have to do it for free.
Okay.
Or find someone who will.
Or find someone who will. Kevin can write well. How does Thomas go? They're pretty good.
Hand drawing.
I am not nominating my husband.
You gotta stick. me
Did you
in
get that on
there.
record, Tracy?
I did, I got, no.
If we do go the route of voting, do you guys think that we should wait till next fall to vote again, or?
I don't think we can.
I think that we should hold a special election just because it shows also if we do go that route, to show the community that we do want this, and we think that is the best interest of the city, and not just, another project that we're just gonna put off, or especially with all the information being fresh that we are going to inform them with.
True.
Well, I'll keep the item on the agenda. I can give you an update after I meet with the colonel next week.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add to that?
No, I do want to say, we want to be really, thoughtful on this. This has already been said, I feel a little bit easy too about proceeding on something where we just got to be 2-to-1 basically. We just have to be really thorough and make sure that we're covering all our bases.
Yeah, I think we all concur with that. Okay. Moving on to CARES Act. Brian,
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
I
so,
think there's an item before that,
did I miss that?
premium aquatics.
Marcos is funded.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking for it. I don't know where it is. Okay. Premium aquatics. Application for title leases.
Memo in the packet, Mr. Mayor, some background information. I'd be happy to try to answer questions if there are any from the council, as well as a recommendation on the memorandum.
is today. The deadline is today.
The deadline is today, but I contacted DNR and told them the council meets tonight. And they said it would be fine to submit comments tomorrow if the council directs me to do so.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One question I had, I looked through here and I could have missed it, but looking at the diagram here, you know, it's a substantial, it's gonna cover a substantial amount of the waterway out there. Not center, but it's still out there. Is there any, I didn't see anything that said anything about navigation aid lights on there that identify the thing at night. Is that part of this, or did I miss that, or?
I don't know the answer to that. Obviously it is, as I noted in the memorandum, it is a heavily traveled waterway. If some agency doesn't have a requirement for navigational lighting, we can certainly include that in our comments this round. This is the agency review round, by the way. There's also a public review round that comes up that follows this, and we'll have another chance to comment if need be, but
I would think it would have to have navigation lights on. But that's.
I mean, it's not in, I looked at it real close and my route on my thing is outside of it. But not by much on the far corner.
Right.
So it needs to have lights on it. That's the only, other than that, I think it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it's just inside where I go through too. Another thing is too, the time period when it's there, it's not gonna be there, when patrol season opens, it's gonna be gone, I think, by then, by June. I believe they harvest that kelp by then.
Yeah, but I think the
They
main
said the
structure
anchors were
will be,
gonna stay.
the main
which means
structure
they'll
will
be
be
moving
permanent.
on.
Yeah,
You know, the kelp lines and stuff will come and go, but the perimeter of that structure, I'm pretty sure is gonna be permanent.
well, the buoys will stay, the anchor will be down on the bottom, but yeah, there'll definitely be a couple of buoys there. So, yeah, we would take navigational lights or something to make sure we don't tangle up in it.
And the second thing you addressed a little bit, John, and that's what I wanted to ask about, there will be like a public notice or some kind of an opportunity for public comment on this.
yeah, this is the agency review, so we're reviewing it along with Fish and Game, other state agencies and federal agencies. After that round, then there's a public review. That's, I think, it's another 30 days where the state seeks a broader range of comments from the public.
Stored on private property located in Craven.
And
So it's a-
the will remain in the
Yeah.
water year round, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we were discussing. And they will have to be marked. You ain't gonna run into a buoy, but it's not pleasant.
Some of the big movies.
Yes, they are.
You just don't want the line in your.
The one that's out by St. Nick, it doesn't have lights or anything on it, is it?
I don't think.
I don't recall seeing lights on it.
I
do you?
don't-
That was-
I never went out there in the dark, but I didn't ever see anything on it besides the buoys and lines and structure.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing lights on it.
Mm-mm.
Well, that channel here has got a lot more traffic than the one back here.
Yeah.
Right.
The dive fleet, the troll fleet, the seine fleet, everybody, the shrimpers go out that route through Port Merrill Marina. So it gets traffic, it's a high traffic area. So,
And I have one more question or maybe comment would be, you know, I've known he was interested in putting this there for quite a while. And initially I had been under the impression that it would be more to the east and a little bit behind the island is to the east here, which would kind of help shield it because boats naturally go around the island. I didn't realize it was, you know, this is different than what I had imagined. It's further to the west, which puts it closer to the traffic lane. I was wondering if it is possible to back it to the east some. What was the reason why maybe this was chosen versus that? could it be considered east, more to the east?
That's something we'd have to
Or it
ask.
might be the fishery that's there.
Yeah, there is a notation on the drawing, sheet number 3. They show a 2,500 foot separation between the edge of the raft
The Andromeda Stream.
and some kind of a point there. And it might be a seal haul out or it might be a stream. I'm not sure, but I could find out, Michael.
It says on that one drawing there on one page, it shows the Andromeda Stream and the 2,500 foot buffers on that creek.
Right.
So it's probably why they have to be where they're at.
Still, I can inquire about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna second guess too much, but thinking of, that cannot be a very date unanimous system. And the trade-off of having it further to the east versus out in the channel more, I'd like to hear a discussion on that.
Problem is, there's another one further to the east, there's that one, and then they don't even have a line to it, but the next one that's right above where it says Andromeda is another one.
Mhm.
So I would bet that that's gonna be their problem there, but I'm not certain of that.
Okay, got it.
I know it's that side because it's deeper and it hits the sun sooner.
Mhm. Important for kelp.
Mm.
Any more questions on that? Your recommendation on there, John, I didn't see it.
Simply to provide directing staff to send comments to DNR on the proposed aquatic farm lease site. And among the comments I'll include is need for general navigational lighting at the corners of the raft or along the raft, certainly at the corners. Let's see here. I'll confirm that this is not the public review and just the agency review. But I'm sure there's a second review after this. And then an inquiry about moving the facility to the east. Is the council comfortable with general statements of support in the concept for the activity?
I am.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I'll include that comment as well.
Nobody is opposed to this. No. Okay. Got enough?
Yes, sir.
All right, Brian, CARES Act defining sustainability engaged employees.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's really kind of a housekeeping item. The CARES Act and the Treasury guidance talk about the city being able to reimburse itself for substantially engaged employees. We've had a lot of internal discussions about what that means and doesn't mean. The Treasury Department is not helpful in clarifying it. So I thought it best to put a definition out there that we at least can hang our hat on. And so there's a proposed definition, really includes 3 groups of employees, public safety employees, which are reimbursed to the city at 100% of their payroll. Employees who are part of the incident management team, who are spending at least a quarter of their time weekly, would be considered substantially engaged and 100% reimbursable. And then employees who work on a project by project basis we would reimburse the city for those hours that they work on those projects. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but asking council to adopt that definition, and that will be the definition that we use throughout the rest of the distribution of the CARES money.
Would that not include the fire, EMS, and police?
They would be included under the public safety, under the first of the three groups of employees. And this definition would cover volunteer stipends as well as payroll items. So.
I would move to approve staff's definition of substantially engaged.
Motion's been seconded to approve the definition of the engaged employees. You want to vote on that, or you know what to do?
If there's been a motion made, it should be voted on.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you, Mayor.
Not necessarily looking for any formal motion from council tonight on this next item, but just some direction. I just want to give council a heads up. As you know, we've been using a portion of the CARES money to reimburse ourselves for payroll. This has essentially resulted in an offset amount of money that was in the budget for the current fiscal year. When we started, we estimated that we were going to be somewhere between 750 and 900,000 based on our most recent reimbursements and the budget going forward. It looks like the payroll reimbursement is going to total as much as $1.1 million or so. We are getting to the point with 2.5 months left in the CARES money where it's likely we're going to be making some decisions about, I think we're going to end up with more uses for the remaining CARES money than we have CARES money left over between now and the end of December. So there's a couple of options. One option out there would be for the city to take less payroll reimbursement in order to fund some of the other programs. But there are some advantages that I highlight in the memo to maximizing the payroll reimbursement. And then the council can still consider assistance programs. Actually, there's more options, both in terms of what the council can do with some of that offset money and the time frame, since it's not governed by the same time restrictions that the CARES Act money are for. On top of that, we're still really waiting to see what the sales tax returns look like, not only for the current quarter, but for the next quarter. We were pretty flush with our sales tax returns for the second quarter, but we don't know what the summer quarter, which is probably going to be the one most impacted, and we don't know what the fourth quarter looks like yet. Maximizing the payroll now and holding on to some of those offset funds through the beginning of the year would give the city an opportunity to move some of those funds around to cover some shortfalls. So there's a number of other points of discussion in the memo, but generally looking for some general direction from the council to answer questions about maximizing our payroll reimbursement or pulling some of that money for some other purposes before the end of the year. So happy to answer any questions or take any suggestions.
I'm in favor of maximizing our payroll because if things go south after the first of the year, still, we got 6 more months to go to see how bad off we're gonna be with sales tax. And like you said, if we end up being flushed, and we can help people out with money easier than we can now. So I think it behooves us to do it that way to start with.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, maxing out the payroll is, I mean, it doesn't mean we're not gonna help people. It actually gives us more freedom to help. The only negative I can see to it is possible public perception that we're using all the CARES back money for payroll, but with all the programs we're offering, I don't think that would be a problem.
We just don't have a clue
Yeah.
how bad the sales tax is gonna be through. We got the rest of the year to go.
Yeah.
Excellent. If there's any other comments, that's plenty of beds for me.
Okay, we'll move on.
So there's one more item, Mr. Mayor, regarding the CARES Act money. You may know that we're still soliciting nonprofits for ways to assist individuals in the community. In that, and to that end, Misty sent a letter directly to a number of nonprofits registered in Craig. And we got one response today, or one response before this council meeting. Actually, we got one more that we're considering and maybe bring back to the council at the next meeting. But the Craig Community Foundation and the Prince of Wales Cancer Coalition made a request for $5,000, up to $5,000 of CARES Act money to provide travel assistance for their clients who've been financially impacted by COVID-19. That would include both travel for clients between now and the end of the year, and similar to what we just did with the mammogram program working with Peace Health, would reimburse the Cancer Coalition for trips for eligible folks back to March 1st, which of course is the parameters for the money. This program would be limited to Craig residents, like most of the programs that we're offering right now, and it would be limited to folks who have to attest to COVID-19 impacts. Art Stanley is the president of the Craig Community Foundation, and so if you have any questions for the foundation, Bart would be the better answer. This really, in effect, is almost a duplicate of the program that we just approved and are working through with Peace Health to provide mammogram travel.
This is a good deal. I move to approve up to $5,000 in CARES funding for the POW Cancer Coalition to provide individual assistance as outlined above.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the $5,000 for POW Cancer Coalition CARES Act funding. We'll just do all in favor? Signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I want to point out that there is a application packet there at your chair for any council member that might be interested in applying to be on the Subsistence Advisory Council. For I think it's for, well, for us it'd be for Southeast.
Now, what's that program?
The
Subsistence Advisory Council.
they're taking applications for membership, and the application packet showed up in the mail here a day or two ago. So I just wanted to call council's attention to
Is
this.
this to be on the board or is it just to be?
What's it say, Michael, in the title?
This Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council, so that's for Southeast.
For Southeast, yes.
Is that,
They just let 3 people go, 2 of them that were new people that they had just appointed. I know there's some frustration with the way it's been.
is that what Tony was on?
Tony's on the statewide.
He's on the
Council.
state
He's in
one.
the state one, Elijah, and Elijah was up, what, we got appointed.
Jeez.
It was crazy. I know there was some frustration with how it was, the council was fine, it was how they kind of got just no support. And there was some frustration with that.
Mike is involved.
No, I mean, this is a decree that happened to them, they had no voice in it, they were pretty frustrated. Anyways, okay.
We'll do some further research on that. See what they're doing. They appointed those guys and then just sent them home.
Well, they were on there for like 1 term, but the board is, I may not have this number right, I think it's 15, or maybe it's 13, do you know, Melanie?
I have a feeling it's 15,
Yeah.
they could have reduced it. I mean, whenever I was on the original, and there was probably 27 board members back then.
Yeah. I think it's 15, but then they just, by decree, dropped 3 people, I think it was what it was. And it frustrated the board a lot. I've been calling in some of their meetings and they're on top of Mike, so I know. The other thing I know is this is an advisory council. No, I don't know if you guys know, maybe one of you. I'm on actually the U.S. Fishing Safety Advisory Council for Coast Guard. And that's turned into a mess too, and it's all due to the present administration. They don't want advisory councils. The president has said that, and they basically are making it as tough as possible
for people to participate in this, and really discuss. Before I got 71 seats, or the third of the advisory councils. And by basically monkey them up, he's, kind of doing it. Ramp.
Yeah.
I have one thing to bring up before we adjourn. The possible new owners of the beach property, when it gets transferred after the estate of John Finley, are looking to possibly do either a marijuana dispensary or grow on the property, and wanted to see how council would feel about that. Or even if it was, obviously they have to go through the steps and stuff to see if it's even possible, but they just wanted to see how the Craig Council felt about it. It's the property, beach property right across the street from Little T's, where the big metal building is.
The Quonset.
I don't think you can grow in town, can you?
No,
We put that
no,
in.
dispensary.
The dispensary, I
You
think.
can do a dispensary.
Yeah, undergrowth.
I don't know whether that, I remember when we measured, they said they could do it at the Hideaway, but that may be too close. They need to do the measurement.
Yeah, they're very close to,
They're,
so the gym, the jail,
The
the
daycare,
daycare center would all
the
be.
library.
they need to think about it first, because
Right.
when they measured, I think it was gonna be okay maybe for it to be at the Hideaway, but I don't know, that may be within the 1,500 feet.
I thought it was outside of it when I looked before.
And I'm not sure, I haven't looked at that property, been asked to look at that property specifically. So.
Right, yeah, no, they just were bringing, before they even go into the process of doing it.
We're allowed 2 dispensaries, correct,
Yes,
Under our purview.
under our code. So if they are outside of that 1,500 feet, that would be feasible,
Right,
but not for gross. Can't grow, but dispensary, yes.
not growing in town.
I think we.
just the dispensary. The other
Yeah.
3 license types were not
Yeah.
permitted by vote.
When we did it.
So no testing, no
Yeah.
manufacturing, and no growing are allowed at Craig.
That's right.
Dispensaries only.
Does that answer your question?
And I'd be happy, if they get a hold of me to look at what the distance is compared to what the state requirements are.
Okay.
It might be okay.
The only thing that you have to think about is you can't have a bank loan on your property.
Right,
You
yeah,
have what, I'm sorry, you can't have a bank loan on your property or your building.
oh, yeah,
That's one thing when you're,
it will see.
something that gets overlooked.
Is the sale of that land down there, is Chauncey gonna be guaranteed an easement somehow through that CPA property that they've acquired by the way
I haven't taken the information.
For our board.
yet? Well, it's gonna need to, the properties that are kind of get landlocked by the road system there. I know that Lloyd blocked it. Yeah, Brian.
I was just gonna say, so the council passed an ordinance to change the municipal code to require that properties that sell that have essentially landlocked properties off of them, that public access or access is provided to the property. I gave Shannon a heads up about a month ago. I heard, nothing was official at that point, but I heard some rumors that the CPA was looking at the Hideaway Lodge. And I gave Shannon.
They're down there working on it.
Yeah, no, yeah, since then, they brought in the property transfer and everything. I haven't gotten hold of Anna again, but that is a requirement, is that at some point, adjacent property owners need some legal access to their properties. And there's, Chauncey has 2 parcels that are landlocked off of the Hideaway parcel. And Charles and Mern Hawks have a parcel that's landlocked off of the Hideaway parcel.
as well as Shauncey's dock.
Yeah, Chauncey does too. So they've got the little industrial dock that has had some small processor in it on and off. And then down by the old guide shack and the dock itself.
And just, that's something to be aware of. Make sure that that right away gets taken care of.
I'll reach back out to Ann.
Because yeah, we don't want that issue hanging over any of the landowners or the city any longer. There's water, fire hydrants and everything under that road. So it's,
She's out of town right now, but she'll be back this weekend.
Okay. I'll just drop her an email and touch base with her next week.
good. Anything else?
Yeah, one thing. I'm not 100% sure, this John must be the one that remember the most, but I think this is the first time we've had more ladies than guys.
Wow.
We're taking out.
I don't ever remember it happening before.
Look out.
I hadn't noticed. Good deal.
You have to say that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Even when we had three, we got the good old boys coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's gonna be the good old girls.
Oh. I don't know who you're calling old.
I knew that was.
That was what the comment.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming. Now you got anything to say, Jim?
Oh, I'm counting on you, Jim.
Yeah, I'll pass.
He's just being obstinate.
We'll
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
Hannah's taking over your job. Second.
Oh, we got a second.